did want to share with you that I started this podcast in 2018 and you were on my wish list in 2018.
Oh, well, look at this. Here we are.
It's been such a big reflection point in lesson in just staying with the work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the amount of course, everyone's had their no's and just not letting that be a deterrent. You know, the right voices will land with the right voices on the right shows in time. It's just this big reflection in just staying with it, staying with what's trying to come through me. And these names, yours being one of them, they'll be optioned at a point, and I get that really beautiful empowered yes when it came of like, here she is.
Isn't that amazing? But you did the work, right? You kept showing up and you wanted and wished and desired, but not having it didn't stop you. And then I came through your door, right? Like because I'm coming to Australia, the tour director contacted you. So you got a choice to say yes or no. And it's so funny how life works out. It doesn't always work out, but many times it does. And so you're a testament to just staying the course, like you said, and showing up and doing the work that you love. And then people will find you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to work so hard.
Exactly. Yeah. So you just mentioned you are coming to Sydney in March 2026, which is very exciting. I'm going to have a ticket link in the show notes. I wanted to learn a little bit about your observations of us as a sort of nation and really like our parenting culture and our desire or non-desire to sort of do the work as a throughway to being full and expressed and whole and healed for our children. I just like to think about that different sort of market context. How do you see us as Australians in and around your kind of world and your worldview and what you're doing?
Well, I did come to Australia for a little mini tour right around COVID 2021, and Australia hadn't opened yet, but we did a wonderful tour. And I have many coaches in my coaching institute and my community from Australia. So I really know, I can't say I really know, but I am exposed to your parenting culture. And what I've seen is that there's such a desire for growth and such a deep commitment to your children's well-being. But I think there is a yearning for leadership and a thirst to be given the tools in a very thoughtful, laid out map. And that's why I think I attract a lot of Australians in my coaching institute, because they're looking for that map. And so I think you're a market that is ready, but also very frustrated for the digital technologizing of our children's lives. And I think you're scared, like all of us are, about what is happening to our children's brains. And you're trying to, find your way, like all of us are. But I think more so than others, when I came to Australia, I saw a real thirst and a real desire to go back to a way of being that felt more connected, felt slower, felt more authentic and real. So I'm very excited to come back after so many years and share, my teachings. I'm writing 2 books right now, 4 sons and daughters, divided by sex, about raising children consciously in the digital era. Because what we're seeing now, none of us have ever seen before, and we are not equipped. So right now I'm interviewing, hundreds of children to find out from their perspective what their reality is and help parents bridge that gap, because the gap right now is a chasm.
Yeah.
So I think when I come to Australia on this tour, what we will find in my talks is a lot of concrete strategies and tools that parents can begin to apply right now to kind of combat some of this onslaught of technology, which I think every parent in the world will agree that there's too much technology in their child's life.
Yeah, it's been really interesting reading about that sort of wealth divide as well. And you've got all these tech leaders who are essentially taking their kids offline, and that is their privilege, right? Because they have they're positioned in a way where they can provide external care, nannies, tutors that can be with their kids predominantly in the home. But then you've got these kind of working class families and these people that aren't as well resourced who are having to rely on technology to help them parent their children to survive in this very extractive, capitalistic world. So it's kind of fascinating when you read about those leaders and those tech leaders not giving their kids phones and not letting them have social media, but yet they're building the platforms. I wondered what your sort of take is on that sort of, it is a bit of a wealth and privilege divide.
Yeah, and it's so sad to even think about the fact that we're being exploited, but not just our children, but all of us as a class and community, right? We're infected with this capitalistic exploitation. And that's why the work I do, I think, more now than ever before, has reached a pinnacle of urgency where we have to, as parents, unite and get the tools of consciousness so that we can reverse engineer what the oligarchs, the tech oligarchs, are shoving down our throats, really. And we feel helpless. And we are addicted ourselves. We are, besotted. Our brains are hijacked ourselves. So conscious parenting really talks to the parent directly in terms of their own healing and their own evolution, and raises the alarm, raises the flag, highlighting the crisis that our children and we are as a culture. And we have to resist.
Yeah.
Right? So we have to first get educated, become aware, understand the game, see that it is creating not just chattel out of us and our children, but really exploiting us in the most vulnerable way. And that's why the statistics speak for themselves. Now more than ever, our children are the most anxious, most suicidal, most self-harming, most exposed to pornography, and most disconnected than ever before, more lonely than ever before, even though we're supposed to be in the most connected era.
Yeah.
So we have to see the facts and understand what impact it has on our children's developing brain. And that's what my next books are. And that's what my tour is going to focus on, highlighting the urgent need for action on the part of us parents, and then outlining what that action could look like.
Yeah. It's this sort of, it's this return to free will. It's like somewhere along the way, these algorithms, these dopamine hits, it's caused us to forget that we are actually driving. Well, nature's driving, but if we see ourselves as this conduit to nature's intent for us, there's a lot of free will that I think we've just sort of given over, but it's also how the brains have been trained. And you think about AI and the use of platforms like Claude or ChatGPT and getting into that cognitive debt as well. So it's just this continual extraction of our humanness, isn't it? That sort of, that essential sort of, this essence. But I think it's us, and I've been talking about this a lot in my work with AI. We can decide for ourselves what getting into right relationship with this technology is going to look like. Don't look to the tech leaders for the framework or the principles, because they just want you reliant. That's the model, is reliant. But you have to understand your own personal value system. You have to have your own belief system, whether that be cultural, religious, spiritual. Use that as the guardrails for how you engage. But again, it's free will. We just forget, I think, don't you think, that we have that because we're just being served.
Right. And we're being told, again, out of a lack and scarcity model that, if you're not using AI in your business, you're going to fall behind. And if you don't have an AI agent, then you're going to be left, behind the curve. And all this scarcity modeling that then makes us panic. But that's how it's always sold to us and packaged, right? The anti-aging industry is all about, if you don't get on these hormones now, and if you don't, use these 10,000 layers of cream on your face, then you're going to be behind the curve. And so we're always being marketed through this fear-based exploitation. So like you said, we have to empower ourselves with a truth that liberates us instead of enmeshing us to others, to the industry, to capitalization, to others' opinions of us. We have to unenmesh and disentangle. It's another form of codependency,
Yes.
And the target just keeps moving, from the TV to the cigarettes to the marijuana, to the vape, to the alcohol, to the now biohacking is the new wave, and then will be the, HRTs, and then, everything just keeps morphing. And with every new technology, we have to be the wise consumer and allow ourselves to lead in our own life in an informed way and not in this panic-stricken, if I don't jump on the board, then I'm going to drown. And that's what they're counting on, that you get so afraid that you use their product and you sign up for it, and then you're besotted and you're going to be, beleaguered without it. You are going to need it. And it's a lie. You don't need any of it. You've never needed any of it. It's what you choose to buy into. And I always help women, especially mothers, to really not fall for this scarcity-based model, and that's what social media has become, because you can't attract the attention of someone unless you make them afraid. Otherwise, they won't stop scrolling. That's why it's doomsday scrolling, right? You just keep going. So it's a tragedy, but I think there's an opportunity here to, further educate. If you're going to use ChatGPT, use it to educate you, not ensnare you in a blind, codependent, enmeshed, entangled relationship. Allow it to educate you. That's what I use it for, to teach me about things that I may not be able to learn, and try to use it ethically and try to really get the best of yourself through it, rather than lie down at its feet and let it lead you.
Yeah, it's like this creative sparring partner is how I think about it, even as a business owner and a business mentor and a strategist. It's like it's this sort of entity that in a way can like run at our speed, and then the more we're engaging with it, the more intuitive that becomes, because the more it knows us. But just continuing to stay firm in our role in this, like it's not, like you said, giving ourselves over to the technology, but using it to enhance the humanness. I think that's the kind of the bet. I did want to share with you, yesterday in Australia, it was Father's Day. And, my husband and I, we don't have any family close by. We're sort of parentless. And Betty our little girl doesn't have any siblings. It's like, it's just her. And so it is us all the time, right? Like there's like no days off, and we both, I have a business and he has a career as well. So it's Father's Day morning, and she's 4.5. She's had the iPad for one extended period when we went to the UK to see my dad last year. And obviously the changes I saw in her during that trip, based on the fact that she was on the screen during travel and in car rides and things like that. As soon as we got home, I was like, okay, no, and then she just forgot about it, right? Because she's young enough. But yesterday morning I said to Tony, why don't we do a little bit of iPad and we can both have some like time, and you can go for a swim because we live at Bondi Beach, and get yourself a coffee, and I'll do some reading, and like, let's just start to like relax. It just feels like we've been holding on for the last 4.5 years since we had her. And even that 1.5, 2 hour period, she was like a different kid, and just the speed in which she was like craving it, and then getting really short and like yelling. Like, it's kind of incredible how stimulated she was and how much more of it she wanted. But of course, then I got to read my book for a little bit. He got his swim. And so you just like, she had the headphones on, watching our version of, at the ABC. But it was peaceful. And I said to Tony, I totally get this. I totally get this as a support tool for parenting.
Actually, as much as it's stimulating, it is also kind of then a soothing, right? Because the child zones out. They don't have to deal with real people. They can just go into their movie. And that's what we use it for as adults, right? When we're on a plane, we just want to zone out. But when a child does it too much in the early years where they are ripe for the connection, ripe for socialization, their brain is wired for interaction and interpersonal dynamics. And that's how they grow. And their neuronal connections are waiting to multiply through real life experiences. So then too much artificial 2D reality actually stunts their growth. For us as adults, because we get so much interaction now, we're older, it can allow us to feel soothed. But I think for our children, it can zone them out. And for us too, if we use it too much, now it's going to disconnect us, right? The other day I saw a video on social media, I was on it, of a woman who walked by a mugging and missed the whole thing because she was totally into her screen and she had headphones on. So that is not the way we're supposed to live our life. We're not in real life. We're disconnected. I can't tell you how many times I'm texting and walking.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, let's just bang out this text, bang out this email. But I'm not present.
Yeah.
And children, of course, once in a while, it's fine. There's no harm being done. But children need our presence. They don't need too many people, but they do need a few people's presence. And that's how they experiment with real life. And that's how they are in the laboratory, playing it safe at home to practice skills that they're going to use outside. So if they're not getting that practice of like, how do I say hello? How do I play a game and lose and cry? And that I'm not getting practice being soothed. And I'm not getting practice fighting because no one's fighting with me. I'm always on a screen. Then they're not practicing real life. And then real life comes and then they're too fragile because they don't know how to handle it. And on the screen, it's a virtual life, right? So it's fake. So anytime they say they're playing a game on a screen and they hit an obstacle, they can just swipe, right? I play word shake, right? It's a like a crossword or whatever it is, a boggle. Anytime it's making me unhappy, I'm like stuck. I swipe, I go to the next one. But that's not real life. You can't swipe away a traffic accident. You can't swipe away a plane delay or a bully. You have to kind of tolerate it. And screens create a low tolerance frustration and that can make us more fragile.
Yeah. So you often speak of our children not as these extensions of us, but as their own spirits throbbing with their own unique signature. What advice do you have for any parents listening who are struggling to accept the child they see before them?
Wow. First, I would say if you're struggling to connect or understand the child before you, or you're like, oh my God,
who is this? Yeah.
Who is this? This is more my mother-in-law. I don't understand how I got the devil's spawn. I just don't recognize this person. I'm so kind. I'm so empathic. I'm so sweet. This one is a monster from hell. Okay, this is all natural. Your child is not a mini-me. So this is going to feel very, very painful, but it is normal and natural for you to not feel connected to your child. It's okay. They are a whole other human being. But here's the thing. It's because we think that they should be a mini-me. They should. It's because we think that, hey, I birthed this creature. I suffered. I have stretch marks. I've lost my body. My vagina's torn up. I sacrificed. It's mine. I should just naturally fuse with this being. I should naturally just understand it intuitively. We should be connected. That is a myth and a fallacy. And it's really narcissistic to think that, oh, just because you birthed them, now you should just know them. No, you cannot know this person because they are an entirely different being that you are supposed to get to know and figure it out together. And it's a growth curve. And you don't even have to necessarily even like them too much. You just have to understand them and understand them for who it is they are. You're not supposed to agree with them and they're not supposed to agree with you. They don't even have to like you. That does not remove the love or the connection. You and your child may be oil and water. It's okay. y'all are two different beings. And I think many parents feel a guilt or a shame that their child and them are different beings. I mean, as if we should be one, but no, we're supposed to be different. We're supposed to not agree. That is healthy because we're two very different autonomous human beings walking on our own path. And the minute I tell parents that, they feel so relieved because they're like, oh, okay. I knew already that we were oil and water. I was just trying to make us like one person. And that is so toxic and unhealthy and dysfunctional. And the minute I give the parent permission to be their own person and allow their child to be their own person, there's peace in the house.
Yeah. I've had to work through a lot of that, like, I suppose my own abandonment stuff. I had extreme pregnancy anxiety. I mean, every minute of every day that I was pregnant, I'd lost babies leading up to. It was an egg problem in the end. I swore it was my husband's sperm, but no. It was the quality of the eggs. So I had a decent amount, but a lot of them were low quality. And so the fertility specialist had said to us, listen, like, you'll get a baby, but you might just lose more than normal, what we'd deem as normal in the lead up to. So that was kind of steadying in a way. We were like, well, I should expect this. But then, of course, when I did eventually fall with her, holding the pregnancy became where the anxiety was. And then all of the concern I had about, because I'm a meditator and I live a pretty soft and spacious life, but then inside was like, did not feel like the conditions that I wanted for her, and then the photo that I have giving birth where she's on my chest, the relief in my face, like that cry, that was just like a thank God, like, is she breathing thing. But then the first 12 months of her life, it was I had no relief. So it was breathing checks all night. It was the bloody monitor with the breathing band and because that's a fear thing as well, like, we've almost been like sold to in that way that you need all of this stuff for your baby to survive, But then just having to really sort of tend to my own stuff. And this is like how I've sort of seen our journey is I really understand her as evolutionary, for me, and all of the qualities of me that she's pulling forward that allow me to kind of get stuck into my own work, but, trying not to get that anxious attachment, It's just like, and now I do feel, and I suppose it's an age thing too, because as she moves towards 5, I witness her as an individual now, whereas, in those early months and years, they do feel like
an extension.
Yeah, and they're attached to you as well, and they're on you all the time, and they're feeding from you a lot of the time. And
yes.
So maybe the age thing has helped me just sort of start to, see her in her own sort of light. But it's been the biggest work of my life. Like, I thought I'd done a lot of healing. I thought I'd done a lot of therapy, a lot of shedding and transcending stuff. And then, wow, like, I was thrown.
It's really intense. And I think because we raise our children without our aunties and the grandmothers and the sisters, and we're raising them so isolated and in a nuclear way, we feel so responsible keeping them alive.
Yeah.
And we kind of get more and more narrow focused on, and it becomes about survival, not thriving.
Yeah.
But if we were to raise, our children with the grandmothers and the aunties, they would handle this for you. They would say, you go rest, you're a nut job, you are too anxious, you go. We got this. So the child can just feel like she can breathe without necessarily being the survival life support for her mother. There's a reason for the older generation. And one of the main reasons, evolutionarily, is to take care of the young, not for us to take care of the young. It's for our mothers and our grandmothers to help us because we are too anxious, So we needed help and you needed help and you didn't have the help.
Yeah.
So of course you carried all that burden that I need to keep this person alive. And it felt very primal and you were exhausted because of it, and now you're finally realizing she has her own lungs and you have your own lungs and you all will survive. But it took a long time because you did this alone. And I think that's the most dysfunctional aspect of our modern society, is that we don't have help. I remember I called my mother to be with me for 8 months. Now, this is a very Indian thing. The mothers come. But my Western girlfriends were like, what do you mean your mother's coming for 8 months? I said, yes, we cannot do it alone. Like, I was raised the other way. Like, you will not do this alone. You're not capable. You need help. So I demanded it. I expected it. My mother delivered. I'm sure I'll have to do it for my daughter. This is just the more Eastern communal mindset. And what a relief. Because if I hadn't had that, I too would have done exactly what you did, even worse, because already even with her, I was kind of nervous. So you have to now have compassion for yourself and understand that you did it by yourself and you did manage and you did do great. And now you can allow yourself a little bit of slack,
Hence the iPad yesterday morning.
Good. It's not going to destroy.
That's right. Yeah. I appreciate that. So I told you a little bit about my work, but as a business mentor, it's really centered around helping founders and entrepreneurs make contact with their true self, their essential essence, and allowing that expression of them to design their business or build this kind of professional self, this professional reality. Can you talk to us about that pathway home to ourselves? And we've all got different interpretations of how do you make contact with your true self?
Well, most of us are in a dire need for that inner connection. We are missing it. We've never had it. We don't even know we're missing it. And when we are missing it, we get driven and obsessed by what culture tells us is important, which is mainly status, money, youth, beauty, power. And so most people go on a chase for those elements, mostly money and power. Sorry. Oh, my goodness. So you will see that in a lot of young people. I work with so many young people, and they will say things like, oh, I want to be Insta famous, or I want to make 100 million by the time I'm 35. And you can clearly tell that they've bought into the matrix, that they have sold themselves this idea that this is fulfillment. And then you meet a whole other bunch of kids who are looking for their purpose, who are looking for their passion. And they're two distinct kinds of people, or you can say that they're the seekers and the non-seekers. And you can't create a seeker. You can't push a non-seeker to become one. You just have to be able to recognize who you are and allow others to be who they are. But eventually, the ones who are chasing that gold on the outside, I've seen this happen so often, they will hit a wall because those external validators are the makings of the ego, the false self. And when you pray to the false god, you will crash and burn. It just may take time. And of course, the more money you have, the more you may not feel it, but you will eventually see your world crumbling. And often people call it a midlife crisis, or it shows up in a disease or a divorce. It will show up because the ego cannot survive for long. And you want it to break down. So people look at the ego falling apart as a tragedy, but I look at it, especially as a therapist, as the most glorious invitation to get out of rock bottom and pivot your life. The ones who are seekers, they don't crash and burn because they are staying true to finding that truth.
Yeah.
Their pathway, though, may not be as glamorous. They may not have a lot of money. It may be circuitous, but they are at least going to be more healthy. And they are invested in curating a life that matters, that feels authentic and genuine and soulful and meaningful. I just visited a fantastic cookery school in Ireland. My daughter went for that course for 5 weeks. And my question to everyone was like, how did you get here? Like, this is such an off the beaten path, esoteric, unconventional, not glamorous, on a freaking farm, slow cooking and living off this tiny little coast village of Ireland. And they all said to me that they had been wanting to come for years. They were so determined to enter their body, to feel connected, to be creative, to be intuitive, and to live with nature. That's what they all resoundingly told me. And those are the seekers.
Yeah.
And those people will find their path and find the manifestation. So people need to just find their rhythm, and everyone arrives at it in different ways. But I've seen that those who live from a place of seeking are always the most fulfilled and the most connected and joyous to be around.
Yes. It's just the journey to accepting the unknown. I think that's the big thing, isn't it? Like my story was leaving the big job, the big publishing job 7 years ago, and everyone expecting me to go to the next big job. And I was like, no, I'm out. Like, that's, I got it, money, title, status, everything. And of course I realized in getting it that it didn't fulfill me. But then it's been 7 years, of course, building this beautiful business and brand. But there's a lot of unknowns, and just having to find comfort in there's no there.
There is no there. It's only the now. And the illusion is that when you're chasing the ladder, it's going to take you somewhere. And everybody chasing the ladder knows you get to the top, it's another ladder. It's another ladder. So that keeps you very distracted for very long, but just chasing something on the outside. So I always ask people, do you want to live your entire life chasing a mirage? Or do you really want to stop, pivot, and change course and live a life that is focused on the most important relationship you can ever have in your life, which is your relationship with your inner self? And that piece, that relationship with your inner self, is something that we're not teaching in schools because it doesn't make money. It's not sexy. It's not a commodity. It's not commercial. But that is really the only purpose in being here. Our only purpose really at the most fundamental level is to feel connected to yourself. And every other purpose emerges from that purpose. But we've totally contaminated our purpose, and we pretend, or we believe that the purpose is on the outside. It's who cares if you're even saving the world, which you can never do anyway, but say you think you are, but you're deeply disconnected to yourself. Then it's another ego trip. It's another persona, and it's another lie. So there is no purpose except understanding who you are. And if you can do that and give yourself the gift of you and realize that you are the gift, you are the purpose you've been looking for, you are the love affair, you are the relationship, you are the child that you need to heal, you are your own parent. That's why we're here, is to really reckon with and recognize this being that is you. You are the most infinitely interesting being ever. And you are the greatest mystery that you need to discover. You, not your lover, not your child. And because we're focusing on them, we are entangled and we're enmeshed and we're codependent. We need to shift the gaze to ourselves. Now, that sounds very self-centered, but it's actually not. Because it's not about feed me, give me, look at me. It's about, who am I? Let me understand my patterns. Let me understand my toxic belief systems. Let me deconstruct my ego, because then I am the safest, kindest, most compassionate human being ever, because I have deconstructed and looked at every shadow and under every cobweb of my personality. And therefore, I have disarmed my ego to such a degree, I only am love.
Yes. The freedom in that.
Yeah.
No longer in those thought loops, no longer in the scheming and the planning and the grinding. I think that's the thing, is we don't even know what that feels like until you experience it and you're like, what the fuck? Because like you were saying, it's decades. Well, this isn't months or years. This is decades of our lives. And then we have this destruction come in usually, isn't it? And then that's the moment you were saying, that rock bottom. It's the gift of, okay, well, we have arrived somewhere in that, haven't we? And really,
and that was my greatest motivation in teaching conscious parenting, because we have fucked up our lives, right? We've been chasing the false gods. We were looking on the outside because no one told us. But that's what I tried to change with this paradigm that I founded, which is teach your children that the greatest relationship they can have is with themselves. And when you are authentic to yourself, you will raise children who are authentic to themselves, because you have deconstructed the matrix and the lies that culture has told you that success is this external, the house, the picket fence, the cars. You've deconstructed it and you've let it go and discarded it in your own life. Therefore, you will not put it on your children. And that's really what my work in conscious parenting is about. People think it's only about love and bubbles and fairies. No, it's about really deconstructing culture's lies and not putting on your children the false illusions that we have been chasing, and liberating your children from understanding how to maneuver culture and not to be a slave to it.
Can you talk to us about, as parents and caregivers, how do we create more nourishing conditions for them to rest in their essence? That's the thing, isn't it? Is to not have to be productive in their existence. But we're kind of now emerging out of this, especially for women, that bloody girl boss era that just ruined us in so many ways. That's a big kind of headline in my work, is goodbye girl boss. Like, we woke up. We understand that we absolutely cannot do it all. And when we try, we're absolutely miserable. But so it's sort of like, how do we harness the ambition, especially if our work is purpose-driven in nature, while also creating these nourishing conditions for our kids to, I suppose, be who they are. But what do we need to be doing as parents for them to feel, what is it like, content, relaxed, safe in their uniqueness, I suppose?
Yeah, I think first we have to arrive at that for ourselves. We have to be okay wherever we are. We have to bloom where we're planted. We have to be enough in the enoughness of our ordinariness. We have to be comfortable in the silence, still in our solitude, okay with our, imperfect lives, really accepting of our average, of our limitations, not constantly striving to be somebody else. If we are comfortable, being in our pajamas, showing our vulnerabilities, being a total bumbling fool, and not trying to be this persona, not chasing, our children will see us. They may even be embarrassed for us. Like, can you please,
Mom,
pretend a little bit? But when you're like, no, I'm fine the way I am, you have to deal with your insecurity around me, but I'm really good. They will eventually pick up on that ease, that you're not chasing something. When they see you, being makeup free and okay with your cellulite, and, being goofy and silly and being totally fine, making fun of yourself, that releases the pressure. When you keep telling them, no, don't follow the matrix, follow your heart. What do you need to do? Yes, work hard. Yes, have discipline, but be internally driven. Be focused on what gives you joy, not what your friend who's a stockbroker or the prototypical lawyer is doing. And when we give our children these messages and freedoms, they will quite naturally and willingly fall into alignment, because that is their natural state. We have taken them out of alignment through our unnatural state. So the more natural we are, and the more willing we are to say sorry and just be a human and really love the present moment and the beauty of wherever we are, they will eventually also feel whole.
Embody that.
See, wholeness is the goal. Wholeness means acceptance of the whole, meaning the beauty and the shadow, the exaltation and the averageness, the achievement and the absolute stagnation, all of what makes you you. And when you're okay with the wholeness, then you feel content. And yes, you may still, achieve and look for more, but you're emerging from wholeness, not from this desperation and this stagnation and this this fear that if you don't do, you will cease to exist.
Yes. I've had a really interesting journey with Betty. My background was in beauty editor, and then went into kind of leadership and publishing. And so I had a relationship with like injectables for a long time, like 10 years. And then obviously stopped when I was trying to get pregnant, stopped when I was pregnant. And then after I stopped breastfeeding, I started getting Botox again. Botox being something that made me feel incredible, confident, fresh, just more myself actually in this weird way. And then as she started to get a little bit older, just recognizing that I literally couldn't express myself. Like I've got this little baby who is looking to me for these cues and my face isn't moving. And then deciding a couple of years ago to stop and just sort of embrace aging and like really have to meet myself in the mirror. Like, what do I look like? I don't know. Because you don't look yourself when you're pregnant as well. So it's like another sort of, I've been talking about it as this sort of return to naturalness in like a non-virtuous way of just, can I meet myself? Can I sort of see myself? But this really, really beautiful moment when the Botox wore off and she saw me, eyebrows up, you know, big smile, eyes crinkling, like, and the response, like it actually was heartbreaking because in some ways and this is really not to demonize it. And I always say I reserve the right to go again, you know, maybe when I'm 45, 50 old. But I did, it just felt like this huge weight of responsibility in that as well, in that what did I prioritize and what was I therefore sort of also taking away from her in not accepting how I look and not accepting the process, the beautiful process of aging. But just, it was heartbreaking to see her then be able to like respond. And I realized too, and this is just an individual experience, so much of my anxiety and the tension, I think, was caught up in that frozenness that I couldn't actually relax. My face, it was like a holding, like a freezing, isn't it? Like, so it's just been really interesting how the kind of aging piece and the self-acceptance piece also flows into mother and like their experience of us and all acceptance, just this kind of unraveling. But I do think about that for like, so we've got this generation of kids born to these girl bosses, me being one of them, and, you know, these women who have embraced anti-aging treatments and feel incredible doing them. But then what impact do you think that's having on our kids? Because you've got, say, the mum who's modelling the work, business, building, grinding, hustling, and who also looks absolutely pristine and polished and the face doesn't move. Like, how do you think about the impact on the kids of this generation of parents?
Yeah, I mean, it's an impossible standard of perfection. And I think nothing kills self-esteem more than the illusion of perfection, because it is always unattainable. And we want to be attainable. You want your child to feel, I am surpassing my mother. I am the next generation and I'm better. And doesn't mean your mother is worse, but the mother should be willing to hand over the baton that you are now the next evolution. But if you're already perfect, right, if you're this unattainable standard, then the child has nowhere to go but down. It cannot go any higher because you're too high up. And I worry about that with my daughter because I've achieved so much. And for many years, I kept that away from her, you know, and then almost she had a culture shock. She was like, what? I didn't know you were.
Like, Mom, you're a pretty big deal.
Yeah, you're so dumb and silly at home. I didn't even know you had this kind of brain. I mean, it was kind of almost insulting to me. I was like, okay, whoa, you know. But I had done such a good job humanizing myself, almost to the point of extra, because I was so not wanting her to feel like she had to live up to me, that it really helped her feel powerful, I think. I mean, I think I overdid it because I overcompensated. Like, I so don't want her to think I'm amazing that I really dumb myself down to the point that she almost has a hard time even believing that I'm capable. But And I saw myself overcompensate, right? Because I'm such an empath that I projected onto her that she would have such a hard time with a mom like me that I sacrificed myself, which wasn't really the best way to go. But I'm learning and I'm correcting it. But sometimes we overcorrect one way or the other. But I think it is such a disservice to anybody around us to let them see us as one-dimensional and not human. And in fact, I think that the reason I may be successful the way I am is because I try to expose as much as I can my utter, frustrations and, inabilities as a parent, and not sit in an ivory tower of this unattainable, achievement, which can be pedestalized by people. And the minute somebody pedestalizes you, yeah, it may stroke your ego, but it's really such a vicious thing to allow, because what you're doing by allowing someone to pedestalize you is really allowing them to shit on themselves.
Yeah.
So whenever I see these gurus who allow their devotees to bow down and call them guru, I just get so upset. I'm like, for your ego, you're willing to allow this person to believe that you are better than them, which means they are lesser than you. And instead of allowing them to touch the beauty and the God in them, in their own being, you're asking them to sacrifice to the God that you are, or you think you are. And the same with our children. Don't let your children look at you as if you're some deity up on a pedestal. It'll really ruin their self-esteem.
Are you as excited as I am for this sort of shift in consciousness of like women ascending, right? We're really waking up to that guru syndrome now. And I feel like we are becoming more sovereign in our spiritual practice and belief system. Are you feeling that over there? And that, because I think in so many ways that sort of that guru, it's very patriarchal. It's kind of recreating the exact structure we're trying to run from when we do arrive into these spiritual spaces. And just this prospect of moving to these more matriarchal communities and societies, like it's early, but do you feel it? Like I feel so many women I'm talking to are like burned by the guru.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know whether you or your listeners have read my book, A Radical Awakening.
I have. Yeah.
But I do women's retreats. And so I'm surrounded by this. I mean, this is my work, and my mission really is to, awaken humans, but mostly mothers and women all across the board, because we have been suppressed and oppressed and given up our power for so long that it's time that we re-embrace it, but not in a male-centric way, not becoming a copy of the males in our lives, not doing more, not hustling more, not thirsty more, but really coming into our own inner, deepest alignment and operating from a truth that we have a right to claim and manifest, and no longer hide in the shadows of our dependency. We were told that we are dependent, that we are naive, that we are shy and sweet, and all these words that kind of mold us to really stay small. And now it doesn't mean that we have to now become the bad bitches either, but we have to really be authentic, whatever that is to each one of us.
Yeah, such a return home, isn't it? Like, and that journey is going to be different for all of us, but it's, again, I say freeing. And then when you see those gurus in their humanness as well. And so there you can bring some experiencing of the innocence,
Exactly.
So I had a question for you, and then we'll go soon. I know it's Sunday night for you. You want to go to bed soon. What's your view on, like, say with Betty, like, we're getting to that stage where we're having chats. She's nearly 5. We're in conversation now, different to when you're just literally keeping them alive and it feels a little bit more one-sided. I obviously want to bring her into my worldview, and she watches me meditate and things. So I feel like she's obviously got some understanding that mum does these things. But I'm starting to get those questions, those natural, biological, evolutionary questions. How young is too young, or is there no such thing as being too young to start to talk to them about what they really are, as in these expressions of consciousness itself? I suppose I find myself going, I've got a lot I want to unleash, but is that actually irresponsible of me to take her there so young?
Yeah, I think you don't need to. See, you think you need to explain. Children who are allowed to stay aligned to who it is they are already are, they're connected, they're there. You don't have to put words to their wholeness. You just have to not project your brokenness onto them. They are good. They are already living it. You don't need words for this. It's a being state. It's a manifestation. It's an embodiment. You don't have to put words to the physical, right? When you dance ecstatically, you don't need to call every movement a name. You just are being that. And that's what your child already is. And all children are, until we project our crap and our brokenness, and then we're trying to fix it through words. It's not conceptual. It's a lived, presence-filled experience in the body. So it's all in her body. You don't need to make it mental. No words can ever describe it anyway. It's like calling a rose can never, ever exemplify what a rose is. You have to experience it, and your child will experience it and is experiencing it already. Just keep her there. Don't transplant her into your anxiety, and she will be there.
Let me just tell you everything I wish I knew at 10.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, that's not for you to tell her.
Yeah.
It's for her to discover anyway. And that's a projection too. So when we think we're teaching them meditation and teaching them about the universe and the cosmos and their space and time reality, it's another kind of projection.
So true.
Right? It's another
also,
worldview.
I suppose, in a way, me trying to control her perception of me.
Yeah. And you don't have to give it words. It's an unspoken, felt, embodied connection. And keep her there. She already has it. It's there. Don't give it words. Words many times come from lack, right? The most filled connections are soundless, wordless, just being to being. That's why really connected sex doesn't need words, right? Because that's the most powerful connection, the closest, the most intimate you can be with another human being. Take every profound experience in life, death, birth, menstruation, sex. These are wordless. They're just experience.
Yeah.
You cannot teach somebody about menstruation. They just have to experience it. Childbirth, you cannot teach them. You cannot talk about it. You have to experience it. Deep connection between two friends, is not about the words they exchange. It is what they feel with each other. And so it is with your child and you. Focus on the felt, embodied presence and connection. Forget the words. In fact, the less words, the better.
Yeah. Oh, that's such good advice. Just being this demonstration of it. Just be it. And
just be it. Yeah.
A couple more questions for you. I've got one, and then I always ask a final question about success. I'm going to see what I've got. So we're in the midst of this major technological revolution. We were speaking about AI at the beginning of our chat. How do we best support our kids to prepare for this future that we don't even know about and can't see? Our parents could see the future. It looked like this. It sounded like this. This is how things go. We're in the midst of what was the Industrial Revolution. It's now the technological revolution we're going through with AI. How do we support them and prepare them? We're starting to wonder about traditional education and how useful it's going to be. And so how do you think about that?
At the end of the day, because we don't know, so we can't prepare them for something we don't know. But the ingredients of what make a human being flourish and thrive will stay ageless and timeless. And the fundamental essence of that is human-to-human connection. So you just need to focus on your relationships and keep her safe in your steady nervous system. that is the best you can do. And the rest will be life. You just like you can't control an abusive relationship when she grows up, just like you can't control her teacher from being stupid and saying something thoughtless. You can't control what's beyond your relationship. So focus on that connection. That is the greatest safeguard. That is the greatest immunity. That is her ticket to her liberation. That is your greatest strength and power. So focus on what you can control.
Seeing mum whole and full and alive and joyful and rested and we didn't see our mums that way, you know? So
exactly.
Yeah. So the final question that I ask each of my guests is for you to kind of bring us into your version of what I call true self success. So we're landed in that essential essence. How do you define success from that seat of true self? What does it look like and sound like for you?
For me, success is doing what feels most natural, living each day where I can make a difference in somebody's life. Yes, provide for my family, but mostly a life of some mission, some service, some contribution, and not be so focused on myself. If I was living a career that was focused on me, bringing me money, or just aggrandizing me, that would not be a life well lived. For me, a life well lived is where I don't focus on myself, where I get to contribute. That is amazing to me. That is purpose driven to me.
Well, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you staying up on, well, not really staying up late on a Sunday night, but offering the space.
So excited to be coming. So excited to be coming to Australia in March. I hope your listeners will come visit and hang out with me and have a really profound evening talking about conscious parenting and mindful living and how we can evolve for our children and what that'll look like in the next era. So I'm super excited to be coming. Thank you for hosting this, and such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.